Hey folks, my name is Melinda Weaver and I'm the pastor here at Avondale United Methodist Church. I'm sitting here in the sanctuary today and not gonna lie, it's been a very weird week. I know for all of you it has been too, because we are living in anxious times, in uncharted times, and trying to figure out how to make sense of our world in the midst of quarantines, in the midst of potentially having to shelter in place at some point, in the midst of food shortages and toilet paper, of all things, kind of shortages, in the midst of trying to explain to our children what's going on. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to explain what's going on to my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old, and I'm failing to come up with the appropriate words and things to try to explain to these two children what's going on, because even in my brain, I don't fully understand it, since we've never experienced anything like it in our lifetimes. The church has been really quiet this week. We weren't able to worship on Sunday because of COVID-19. We have had to cancel many of our ongoing ministries. The children weren't here with the preschool or with the after-school tutoring. We had to change the way we do our feeding programs, and it's just been downright strange, wondering how do we be the church when we can't be together. We're used to being in community. We're used to hugging each other and checking in on each other with physical contact and ministries of presence. And now we're stuck at home. We're having to isolate ourselves and to distance ourselves. And that's just hard. It's crazy, and there are other words that I sometimes say out loud that I probably shouldn't in the midst of all of it, but I don't know what else to do, and I have to get that anger and that frustration and that anxiety out in some way. One of the things that I'm reminded of during these times is something that a bishop once told me. I had this great bishop, his name was Woody White, for a teacher in seminary. He taught me about the church law and the doctrine, but he also taught me just kind of how to deal with anxiety and with life. He was a big civil rights leader in the denomination during that time period, and he had experienced lots of things that he should have never had to have experienced just because of the color of his skin. But he had so much wisdom in him because of his experiences. And so I remember after something had happened, I think it was the shooting at Virginia Tech. It was 10 or 12 years ago. I remember being in chapel in seminary, and I remember Bishop White just taking a moment in the midst of chapel on that Friday of just calm and quiet and talking about hard times, talking about the hard times that he had experienced, and talking about how during those hard times it's when we're called to rely on our faith and when we're called to trust in God. And it's in those hard times that he said he often relies on what he calls hard time songs. He turns to those, and they're kind of the playlist in his head that he sings over and over and over again. And so he had said and recommended that we all come up with our own playlist, if you will. And so you'll often find in my writings and just sermons and different things that I say, I have a lot of playlists that go on in my head. And so right now this week, one of the songs that's been resonating with me is a song called God, I Need Thee. It was also a song that I discovered while I was in seminary, but it was a song that was written by another great theologian and civil rights leader. His name was Howard Thurman. And the song reads, God, I need thee. When morning crowds the night away and the tasks of waking seize my mind, I need thy poise. God, I need thee. When love is hard to see amid the ugliness and slime, I need thy eyes. God, I need thee. When the path to take before me lies, I see it, courage flees. I need thy faith. God, I need thee. When clashes come with those who walk the way with me, I need thy smile. God, I need thee. When the day's work is done, tired, discouraged, wasted, I need thy rest. it's during this week and in the days and the weeks to come, as we continue to live into whatever COVID-19 brings for our culture, for our society, for our communities, that we really need to rely on one another, and we really need to rely on our faith in God, knowing that God is with us in the midst of the ugliness and the slime, knowing that God walks the way with us. It's sometimes hard to see that right now. And so the things I've been clinging to lately are the ways in which I see God in others, that I see them walking the walk and living their faith. Even though we aren't able to be in community, I've seen volunteers that are stepping up. I've seen people donating money to help feed school children that don't have breakfast and lunch. Our church and the Avondale community and people outside the Avondale community have been contributing, and we've raised now more than $10,000 to be able to feed families who rely on those free breakfasts and lunch. I saw volunteers show up Monday and then again today to help with our feeding ministries, to help pack and sort food, and then to be able to give it out and to distribute it in the most healthy way that we saw possible. Even though we've lost that community, even though COVID-19 has destroyed that interaction that we usually would have, we're still able to feed people and still able to be the hands and feet of Christ. And so it's those things that I cling to in seeing and finding the hope, and knowing that no matter what the future holds, we know who holds that future. And we know that as long as we continue to live our faith and that we continue to trust in God, that no matter what we face, God is with us. Something else that I've seen is people were putting up shamrocks in their windows so that even though we couldn't be in community with one another, when they passed by those houses, they would see the shamrocks and know that we're all in this together. I saw another person post that they would like to start putting sunshines in their windows or putting up twinkle lights around their porches so that they would shine at night, and those sunshines during the day to bring a little bit of magic back to the Magic City. That even though we are social distancing, even though we are separate, we are still connected. That we are in this together, and that we are able to bring light and to bring hope to one another, even in the midst of the fearful and the anxiety-inducing times. And so those are the things that I would encourage you to rest in today, to remember that God is with us, to find your hard time song, to cry out to God, but also to find the light, to see the sunshines in the windows, and to see the places of hope where it's still springing forth and coming to us.